Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
And welcome to America's Heroes Group Roundtable Community Outreach. Today is Saturday, July 31st, 2021. Our host is Cliff Kelly, the governor, the godfather of talk radio, and I am his co-host, Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega, Scouts Honors Productions. And today we have an esteemed panelist. She has been on before, but it's phenomenal. I always take my pen out. I advise you to do the same thing right now. Get ready for some incredible information from Lisa Gavin. She is a CBI Vice President of We Build Your Credit. Today we're going to be talking about repairing business credit post-COVID-19. And that seems like it's a little bit of a distance off, but it's changing every day, and we see people going back into business and people taking off their masks, not necessarily what we should be doing all the time, but we're seeing more activity out there. So very welcome to Lisa, to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you today?
Great. So what do you have to tell us about repairing our business credit post-COVID-19?
I'm going to shift you just a little bit.
Okay.
From more so thinking about repairing business credit to establishing business credit.
Okay.
Yes, because, to be honest with you, a lot of people aren't quite at the point that they've really developed enough business credit to repair, right? So It's probably better to back up a little bit and start conceptualizing, what it would be like to have a business, build capital for that business, and have that business be able to stand alone in terms of credit.
Yeah, so you can't fix what's broken if you don't have anything to break, right?
Yeah, there you go. We're not putting a bull in the china shop.
Right.
We're starting from scratch to talk about how that happens, because there's a lot of misunderstanding, ignorance, misconception about the relationship between personal credit and business credit and how you make that shift. So we can spend a little time dispelling some myths and helping everyone understand how that works.
Okay, great. That sounds perfect. Yeah, why don't you lead us down this road? So establishing business credit. How, I started my business, so what do I do to establish the business credit? And it probably should be before I even start a business, right?
Well, what you want to do before you start a business it still goes back to personal credit to a good degree, because it's much easier to get funding for the business when the business is new if the person who established the business or a partner of that business has good personal credit. Because when you first start the business, they're not going to be comfortable, the banks, aren't going to be comfortable giving money to a business that is not established, especially with the toll that businesses have taken because of COVID, and some of the times that we're in right now. So it starts with working to build your personal credit. We've talked about that before, so I'm not going to go into a whole dissertation, which I could, about working on personal credit. Yeah. But I think what's important here is understanding that, yes, the personal does impact the business a lot of times, because you may need to be a guarantor. That's the person that backs the business. And so how that works when you're the guarantor is they're going to look at you personally, but when they issue the credit to the business, it's going to be in the name of the business. Up on your personal credit report. So that's the first important principle, is the difference in, being a guarantor who's able to be the front person for the business. They're still going to look at you, but when the credit gets issued or approved, they're going to put it in the name of the business. So that's the first important distinction, I think, that we need to help people understand, the relationship between the personal credit and the business credit.
Yeah, and do you need perfect credit to start a business, or how good should your credit be? I always see those meters, with the red, the yellow, the green, and go ahead.
The interesting part about this is it's complicated. So I'm going to try to simplify it, right?
Okay.
So ideally, you want to be 680 and above when you're looking to establish business credit. However, there are lenders out there that will issue credit just to the business without looking at the guarantor. But the problem is nobody's going to give big money in that scenario. So a lot of times people expect to start out and, okay, I'm going to walk in the bank and get $30,000. No, you're not. Just on the business? No, you're not. You're going to have to build that business to the point where the business can stand alone and they don't have to look at a personal guarantor. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And, and when you were saying that, I was just thinking that it might be even more risky for you personally if you take a small amount of money and it underestimates what you need to start the business.
Well, that's why a lot of businesses fail, because they don't have capital.
Right.
So with that being said, how do you then start establishing business credit? Once you formalize the business, which means it should be incorporated, should be listed with the Secretary of State, right? Mm-hmm. So that the Illinois knows that you have a business. It should have its own tax ID number, EIN or TIN, right? That separates it as its own entity. So once you have that, then you go and you can open up an account, a bank account for the business. Now the business has an identity.
Okay.
The business should also have its own telephone number. Even if you have to get a cell phone that you put in that business's name using that tax ID number, now you have established a phone that is connected to the business. The business has an identity, and then you start small building credit. You get a Staples account maybe. You may get a Sam's Club account to start ordering supplies, small things for the business. Those things start to build credit for the business. So just have the expectation that you have to start small if you're looking at establishing credit just simply in the business's name.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So does that include, accounts for, things that you may be requiring in the business? So, Staples and Sam's Club, they may be, certain things that you need.
Right.
But, does that include things like, let's say that I make widgets and, I need a punch press for making the widgets. Does that include that kind of thing too?
Well, it extends to equipment because those things are a little more intuitive for a lender. Okay, they're running this type of business. They're going to need this type of equipment.
Okay.
But if at least you start with building those smaller lines, there are business credit reporting agencies that can see that you have that relationship. For example, just like Experian, the credit bureau has a personal credit report. They also have business credit reports. And so if you get those types of accounts, that information will start to hit that report. And so when you get to the point you need equipment and bigger things, those things are secured. Right? Those are secured loans, meaning that if you stop paying for that equipment, they're going to come get it. So it's a little easier to get those types of loans. Same thing with a lease for a vehicle in your business. Similarly, those are secured. There's something they can come get if you don't do right. But those are the ways that you start to build those relationships. And then eventually somebody will trust giving you some real money. But it just doesn't come out the gate.
That makes a lot of sense, and as you were saying that, I was thinking about, when you're setting yourself up in business, you have to make sure that you are, paying these things off too. So if I get a Staples account or a Sam's Club, that before I get that double-decker sandwich, try to like a slice of bread and pay them first.
Do a single before you go for a double or a triple.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So once I get to that point, then what's my next step? It sounds good that I understand what you're saying, how to establish this, and making sure that you have a business, because a business is a person, right? In legal terms,
it's its own entity if you structure it in that way.
Right. So what's the next step? I mean, now that I have this set up, we were talking about establishing business credit. The next step would be going to look at things like the equipment, the vehicle leases, those kinds of things.
Yes.
If that's part of my business.
You're looking at all of those additional things that you need, that building some type of credit to acquire makes sense. Because what a business owner doesn't want to do is to go in with no capital and they're draining every drop of cash, every penny, any loan that they can, personal loan they can get. You don't want to go into it draining yourself in that way. So you want to just start planning. And in fact, it's good to actually start your business way before you actually do business. Mm-hmm. Incorporate your business. Go ahead and get the structure down. As you're planning, that business starts to age. And where that's good is that at some point, when you want to open the doors to bigger money, most lenders like to see your business at 2 years old. Well, you know, if you incorporated it now, it would be 2 years old.
Ah, got it. So
so you start that part early. And while you start the business, get back to working or keep working on your personal credit, because it's going to be necessary at some of those junctures.
Okay, so at least 2 years old. And as you were saying that, I was thinking, so the next thing is there a difference between the for-profit and not-for-profit structures? Because and some businesses start now.
Yeah.
We have a lot of community-based organizations and other things that are out there that are taking, federal grants or state grants, or they're taking money from different sources or foundations. So is there a difference how you can actually apply for these things? Because if I have a not-for-profit, that's going to be different, I guess, than for a for-profit.
Yes. Well, the difficulty that I see with not-for-profits is that it's sometimes more difficult to get funding, as in bank loan funding. Because let's face it, banks like making money.
Okay.
so a non-for-profit, by nature of its name, does not sound as sexy.
That's right. That makes sense. That means you can't pay me back too, because you're not worried about making money. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So, not saying that it can't be done. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying most smart structures have a both for-profit and not-for-profit component to it that work together. Because it's easier to get funding on the for-profit side, and then they can contribute X amount of dollars from what they earn to the not-for-profit to support the not-for-profit, and allow the not-for-profit to get grants and do fundraising and partnerships with other institutions, maybe share grants and things like that.
Oh, I see.
And be able to collect donations and things like that. So the banks is looking at, well, hey, go out and get your donations, go out and get your grants, go ahead and do whatever. But I don't know if I necessarily want to invest in your quote unquote dream. Little difficult if you just understand. I'm making light of it, but I like to put things in a way that people understand.
Yes. How
the other side thinks.
Yeah, that's crystal clear. It's like you don't want to make money. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not for getting a profit like I am. So
right.
Yeah.
And then that also speaks to they're investing in your progress too. So if you go from putting a little bit of a computer together in your garage to Microsoft, then it's like, this is the person we want to work with, right?
Yes, so the thing is that not-for-profits are labors of love.
Yeah.
And you really should be very savvy, less on the banking side and more on the, partnership side and the grant side when you go not-for-profit. Not saying that you can't get money for a not-for-profit, but usually they want to see it established and successful.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And how does the foundation fit into that picture? Is that more on the for-profit side, or I'm not sure how they work? More
so on the not-for-profit side, because the foundations take in money to support different missions. So a foundation is usually going to be not-for-profit. In fact, in my other life, when I had a career before this career, I was a director at a university. I managed all of their fundraising, but the money went into the not-for-profit. And the foundation, which was the not-for-profit arm, that administered scholarships and other things like that. So the foundation typically is going to be the not-for-profit that is able to take in all of that money, the different donations. From the university side, my job was to generate that money coming in. But the money went into the not-for-profit, which I also had to help run. So
right. Oh, fantastic. Wow. So that's a great deal of information you just gave. Before we go on, I wanted you to give any kind of website, phone number, something that people can reach out to if they have further questions about this.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. I have two websites. One is webuildyourcredit.com, webuildyourcredit.com. And We Build Your Credit is where we kind of individually work with people to consult and help them build and develop. And the telephone number that belongs to that is 312-971-1357. 312-971-1357. Our other company is nextlevelcredit.com. That's our educational arm. So, we're looking to do more seminars and workshops. I'm about to upload an ebook that I've written, a workbook, and I'm actually getting advanced myself because it's not up yet, but the site is up, nextlevelcredit.com. And so we have video memberships and other things to help educate people about credit. So.
Oh, boy, because, that sounds like something that I will be reading as soon as that book comes out, because I really do enjoy what you say. On the prior shows, you really just at least educated me in a lot of things I didn't know that were out there. And for those people who wanted to go into business, it's the education is the key. And there was one thing that, and I usually don't say this, but, there was one thing that Donald Trump said a long time ago. That's the only thing I ever made sense of. he said he was in a store one time, and this one person walked up to him and said, "Should I buy this book from one of these one of the people who was educating on finance and all that?" And he said. He said, I didn't even really want to answer the question, but I said yes. And the thing I told him was, he said, if you don't buy the book, you're going to lose more money.
Even Donald Trump values a little education. That is absolutely fascinating. But as well, we all should, to be very honest.
Yeah. So the next step is, so now I have my business going. I've applied for, the credit and all that. What's the likelihood? I've heard some stories before that if you were going in, it depends on the kind of business you're going in, the type of business. Whether you, like if you're going into a restaurant business, I've heard that lenders hate those because their failure rate is so high.
Yes.
But so are there certain businesses that are better than others for people to consider as they're searching?
Well, that's a tough question, and we don't have enough time to fully answer that. Okay. But
you can always come back. We're going to have you back.
Yeah, you know me. I'm good for coming back. But what I will say is that, yes, you do have to be aware of cash and carry businesses. Lenders don't like those, barber shops and salons and that kind of stuff, because it's too much opportunity for you to pocket cash. So if you want to be respected by lenders, you have to put the deposit in the bank. So you may be able to break open with the bank that you have the relationship with if you make your deposits into your business bank account to track that you are making the income. So that's a big mistake that we make because we think, we don't want people tracking us. Well, if you want money, you got to show money. That's just how it works. So beyond what industry you're in, make sure that you're showing the income through what's getting deposited into the bank. That's a good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're running out of time. Very short. Every time I look up, every time I speak to you, it feels like I don't have enough time to talk to you.
That's why I always come on.
We have to have you back again and again. So, just give your websites again, and then, and maybe next time one of the topics that I was going to go into, I know it's not enough time now, but the idea of collateral, if that's needed, and those kinds of things.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to talk about that. Okay. So, webuildyourcredit.com. So we do exactly what we say. Webuildyourcredit.com. And then the telephone number is 312-971-1357. And then the other site is the educational site, Next Level Credit, but that site is still growing. nextlevelcredit.com.
Next Level Credit. And again, I'm looking for that book. I'm going to have to read that. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Lisa Gavin, CBI Vice President of We Build Your Credit. So I'm really glad to have you on. You always educate us and give us some great information to go back with and face our lives. So please, please, please stay with us and stay tuned. We have some really interesting shows coming up, and we will return right after a commercial break at American Heroes Group.